Back in January, I shared my spring planting schedule and garden layout with you. And the garden you see here today, with a few changes here and there, is the result of that planning. I started planting under double cover in mid-February when I planted carrots, radishes, and these sugar snap peas. I planted more crops in March, more in April, and I finally finished spring planting last weekend when I planted out peppers, tomatillos, eggplants, and basil. Now that spring planting is complete, I thought I'd share my succession planting schedule for June and July. I'll also show you the layout of the garden as I expect it to look at the end of July. Finally, I'll provide a link to a tool that you can use in your garden to plan your summer succession planting to ensure continuous harvest through the summer and into the fall. Let's start here in this bed. Some of these plants are already starting to bolt, but we're not going to let them go to seed and drop their seed in place like we do in some beds. Instead, we'll be harvesting most of these plants in June and July. Kale and Swiss chard will remain, but most everything else will go. As I harvest crops from the bed, I'll replace them with crops that I've started in biodegradable pots. You can find these pots made out of cow manure, peat, or recycled paper. Here I've started kale and collards. I'll separate the individual cells and transplant the complete cells, including the little pods, as space becomes available in June and July. Later today, I'll plant carrots and beets in the same kind of pots. This not only allows me to get these plants started before there's space available in the bed, it also allows me to transplant these difficult to transplant crops. I'll simply take the individual cells and plant them into the bed in June and July when space becomes available. Finally, in late June or early July, I'll start kohlrabi in biodegradable pots and transplant them into this garden bed in August for a fall harvest of kohlrabi. Now let's take a look at what's growing vertically at the back of the bed. These are the sugar snap peas that I planted in mid-February. They're already producing peas and soon they'll be taller than me. We'll finish harvesting these in July. And in late July or early August, I'll plant peas here again in the same location for a fall harvest. In the next bed, we're growing sugar snap peas vertically and purple Viking potatoes down below. I expect to harvest both of these crops in July. When I do, I'll replace them with two of our favorite hot weather greens. We'll grow Malabar spinach vertically up the trellis, and we'll grow vegetable amaranth down below. Vegetable amaranth is also known as Chinese spinach and callaloo. Its leaves are more tender and tasty than other amaranth varieties, and they make a great spinach substitute. I'll start both of these crops in biodegradable pots this month and transplant them into the garden bed in July. Next, I started Brussel sprouts in pots in May, and I'll transplant them here after harvesting these Yukon Gold potatoes in late July. This is the first time we're attempting to grow Brussels sprouts, and I'm really looking forward to a fall-winter harvest. Here we have one of the many areas where I planted beets and carrots. I'll continue to direct sow beets and carrots as space becomes available. I'll direct sow beets through July and carrots through the end of August. In front of our beets and carrots, we have our music garlic, which I expect to harvest in July. After harvesting it, I'll transplant vegetable amaranth here. I'll be starting that vegetable amaranth outside in pots any day now. The last area in the backyard garden where we'll be planting in June and July is right here. I expect to harvest this elephant garlic in early July, and after I do, I'll transplant parsnips into this bed. I started the parsnips in these biodegradable pots in May, and I'll simply transplant the whole pots into the garden after harvesting the elephant garlic. The parsnips will stay in the ground all winter, and we'll harvest them early next spring. Finally, I'm thinking about trying to grow a fall cabbage crop this year. I've never had much luck growing cabbage in the backyard because of limited sun, but there's a lot more sunshine out front, so I'm thinking about giving it a try. If I do, I'll start the cabbage in pots in early July and transplant it into the front yard garden as soon as space becomes available. Well, that's the last of what I plan to plant in June and July. I'll be back in August to talk about what I'll be planting in August through October. Now let's take a look at a planting tool I've put together to help you plan your summer planting and to ensure continuous harvest through the summer and into the fall. To use the tool, follow the link in the description below, select File, Make a Copy, or File, Download as Microsoft Excel. Then enter your first frost date here to see your planting dates. Of course, if you don't have frost, you'll want to consult another source for planting dates in your area. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more videos on how to grow a lot of food on little land without spending much or working harder than you have to.